falling at the hands of Legacy. King is massive in this fight. And now they're in for retreat. Fantix over the wall gets the kill. Direwolves are making a statement tonight. Swiper just going off. 3 kills already. The big Swips is a monster.
Chatty Boy gets the crit. The ace will come out for Avantgarde. And this will send Avantgarde into the semi-finals.
Hello OPL fans and welcome to this day 2 of semi-final week for the Oceanic Pro League. My name is Michael Hingensing and it is an absolute pleasure to have your company. Last night we saw OPL Legends Team Legacy 3-0 Avantgarde, and tonight we have for your viewing pleasure one of the most highly anticipated OPL matches of all time. Everything is on the line for these two teams as we decide that last spot in the OPL Grand Finals. Follow along the action on hashtag IamOPL, and to take us through the evening, I am joined here at the analyst desk by two very smart men, and very smart looking indeed. It is Jake Spawn-Tiberi and Barento Raz Muhammad. How are you both? Are you doing well?
Yeah, I'm going actually really well. That was an interesting game of League of Legends last night. I mean, Avantgarde threw the kitchen sink at Legacy, who were able to catch it and return it in full force. And I think tonight we're going to have another cracker.
Exactly. In fact, not only did they throw that kitchen sink back, threw a couple more.
It's chaos out there, though, because we'll get to it in a second, but there's a lot of drama going down. There's a lot of things to explain. There's been trades. This is a very highly anticipated hype train we're all on right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, you know, I ran into both the coaches. I mean, Destiny's out there, Jishu's out there. And I said, gentlemen, who's going to win this one? They both smiled at me and said, us. And I was like, well, that doesn't give me anything to go by on the analyst desk. So thank you for the insider information. I'll just go on my way.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, this is like, it feels like a finals. It really does. Palm's a little sweaty because I feel like both teams.
Love a spaghetti.
But yeah, both teams can take it. And it's honestly fun. I can't wait to get into the
All right, well, let us bring up the brackets as we look at the path to the finals. This best of 5 tonight will decide who is going to be facing off against Team Legacy next weekend, August 13, in the massive Coriamel Piazza. That'll be some sweet live on-site League of Legends that you can be present for. And of course, if you're not in Brisbane, you'll be able to watch these streams at HOYTS cinemas around Australia, where it will be simulcast. Before we go too deep on this first game, let us check in with Atlas in the War Room to see how you're responding on social media.
Thank you very much, Hingers, and I'm sure that no one really knows how this one's going to go. Of course, you did mention some changes for both of these teams, and that is reflected currently in our Twitter scorelines, as 42% think that Direwolves will be able to take this one, and 58% for the Chiefs. And of course, Direwolves being the highest seed in this matchup, but we've seen so many contentious opinions, and we want to hear from yours as well. Use that hashtag CHF win or the hashtag DW win and get your opinion known. We'll be tracking this throughout the night, so make sure you certainly do it, and as quickly as possible. Back to you, Hingers.
Thank you, Atlas. That brings us to tonight's massive match. In one corner, we have the Direwolves, one of the top-performing teams of this split, who have tied with league leaders Legacy in the regular season, only to be beaten in a special edition tiebreaker. And they are facing off against the Chiefs, one of the staples of the OPL. 3-time winners of this league, last year's winners of the whole tournament, who only placed third this split in the regular season. And overshadowing all of this is the last-minute player swap trade that happened just this week, a direct swap of their AD carries going to the semi-finals. So let's take a look at the lineups. First up, we have the Direwolves. You can see them prepping on stage right now. Chippies in the top lane, Sybil playing as their jungler, Fantix in the mid lane, and then their new AD carry, Radar, pairing with support Regret in the bottom lane. Their opponents, the 2015 OPL champions, the Chiefs, we can see them right now. Swiper in the top lane, Spooks their jungler, Swiffer playing mid, as of this week, their new AD carry, Raze, and Ejim playing in support. Oh my goodness. Let's start with you, Jake. Raze and Radius swap. Let's talk about that, shall we? It is overshadowing all of this.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, you know, I actually went on record last week on Twitter and I said if I'm going to pick up an AD carry, pick up any player actually in the league, I'm going for the 17-year-old Raze. He is a franchise player, in my opinion. I mean, I haven't seen a guy with like his attitude, composure, and then just ability to go off in big games in a very long time. And I think that he's got the champion pool. He's got multiple play styles. But at the end of the day, they just gave away Radier, who's probably the best player to ever pick up a keyboard in Oceania at this point. I mean, he's been around for 5 years. I had the pleasure of coaching him, a very nice young man. And, you know, I think that in finals experience, in general OPL experience as a whole, the Chiefs have given away an absolute gold mine to Direwolves, and that might come back to bite them in the arse, Raz. I mean, that's quite a call.
That's true, and honestly, you said it best. He's a franchise. It's like getting Rays is a franchise decision. Making it a week before the actual games itself in the semifinals, really ballsy. And I think that's going to be the tipping point. Because honestly, when I look at the two teams, I see the Chiefs right now with they both use their 80 carries in the same way, right?
Yeah, I think that like the biggest point about how they use their 80 carry is that there's not a lot of pressure on the 80 carries of these two teams. I mean, they play a lot of utility.
Yeah.
They're responsible for a lot of setup and then cleanup, but the crux of it comes down to their top laners and their mid laners. I mean, Chippies going up against Swiper and then Fantix versus Swiffer, they really do have to do the majority of the heavy lifting during the middle part of this game.
Exactly. And so my worry is when it comes back to Rays, sure, he has a lot of tools. He can play a lot more champions, right? And different styles, but I don't think they should. And that's the biggest question is because if you have 1 week of prep time, maybe even a little bit more, it's not enough time.
So let's give a bit of context to this. Chiefs released a video this week where Rade was talking about how the fact that he plans on retiring next year. So him moving to Direwolves is...
I'm going to get in there really quickly.
Okay, yep.
Radier told me after summer 2014 that he was retiring.
Okay.
I also got told after they went to IWC
So this
that
is
he
like-
was retiring.
This is like one of those cold chisel retirement tours, you know, where they do one every 6 months. kind of thing, and
Technically,
it's-
he has finished university. He did a law degree.
Yep.
So he might go get a job. But you know what? He also might just spin the wheel again and go around one more time because I know that he does love the game. In all seriousness, if he does retire, that's a huge loss. But he wants to go out with a bang, and he is very hungry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's go back to that team you were talking about before. You said you were going to build a team around Rays if you had your pick of the litter, right? Now, let's talk about the Chiefs then. Are they the team you would build around Rays if you had that opportunity?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say no. I think that the Chiefs are 22-year-olds. Rays is a 17-year-old.
Sure.
I think that he's going to learn a heck of a lot with them. But I also think that his way of playing the game is a lot hyphier. He's a very aggressive player. And I think that there are some good level heads in the Chiefs, especially when I look at Spooks. And Rays is going to be demanding some attention. I know he loves to crush lane. And Spooks is quite a forceful jungle to play with, Raz. I mean, he pushes back.
He will. And so, like, just that 1 week of time, there must have been, I'm not too sure how that practice must have been.
Yeah.
But trial and error is how it felt, how it must have felt.
And at the same time, Sybil is a much more selfless jungler than Spooks. This is what we always say about Sybil. If you call for a gank, Sybil will wait for 3 minutes. I mean, he's going to make it happen. That's one of his biggest strengths and weaknesses. He is so selfless at getting himself behind, but his lanes ahead. You have a look at how good his lanes were. I think that is the difference between these two junglers. One uses a jungle as a resource. The other uses a jungle to get the team ahead.
All right, well, let us move to predictions. Direwolves beat Chiefs 2-1 in Week 7. Obviously, since then, there's been some roster swaps. Oh, a roster swap, I should say, between the two of them. So let's talk about tonight. It's a best of 5. Let's go to you first, Spawn. What do you reckon? Who's going to take this tonight?
Ooh.
There you go.
I don't know about LaPlasm, but the Chiefs has not beaten this camera. The Chiefs have not beaten Direwolves at all this year. And in saying that, they're going to 3-1 them tonight. I just think that the playoff buff behind the whole of the Chiefs is much too big. In saying that, I honestly think that Radier, Fantix might be the two most terrifying late game carries. And if a game goes past 40 minutes, I would nearly never bet against those two on the same team.
I think with prep time, Darrells have shown that they can actually ramp it up. So I think that I'm actually going to give it 3-2 for Direwolves.
All right, well, that is enough from us here at the Analyst Desk. Before we get into Game 1, let's watch a video which was earlier tonight. Fish spoke to Swiffer about the upcoming match.
Hello everyone, I'm joined here by Swiffer from the Chiefs, and they're about to go into their semi-final match tonight against the Direwolves. How do you feel going into this match?
Yeah, pretty confident actually. We recently acquired Rays and everything, and the synergy, we've been building that over the past few days, and it's actually going really, really well, surprisingly quickly. So we're quite confident moving into this.
All right, that's great to hear. How do you feel about your mid lane match today, in particular, especially against Fantix?
Yeah, well, to borrow a phrase from my good friend Triple, I'm not scared of him. He's kind of a little bit mediocre, so it's totally fine. I think it'll be fine. So, yeah.
Well, you sound very confident
I am
coming
confident,
into this match in particular. Has your confidence changed since you've been playing in so many finals over the past few years?
I mean, you're always a little bit nervous, just especially when you're considered. I don't know if we're considered the favorites, but we consider ourselves the favorites, and so we're always confident going into this, but also always a little bit nervous, just especially considered because we're considered favorites. And so it's we don't want to disappoint anyone, more or less. So yeah.
Well, that's great. Good luck for your games later, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Caster Desk. Swiffer considers them the favorites moving into this, Rusty. And do you think that's even true? I mean, we've heard a lot of opinions, and social media honestly seems tied at the moment.
It's legitimately 50-50. There's
Yeah.
not much more I can tell you on that. They can consider themselves the favorites. It's definitely a mentality thing. I know for a fact Legacy like considering themselves the underdogs to contrast that statement. So it comes down to how you want to play. I think the Chiefs, very good pressure players. They love to have expectations. And by having the expectation of being the favorites or the better team, then perhaps they actually perform up to that bar instead of wanting to be considered below it and then reaching.
Yeah, and they've also been considered the favorites for so incredibly long as well, the Chiefs. We have heard about their record over and over again. It's been a while since they haven't been the top dogs. Now third coming into the semifinals, but still definitely a force to be reckoned with. And with Rays now on the roster, a player that honestly carried the Direwolves against Legacy in that series. It was just ridiculous.
Rays is a man that can pop off at any time that he chooses. And of course, now playing against his former team as his radar on the side of the Direwolves, we have ourselves an interesting battle on our hands.
We most certainly do. And as we look down the line as well, every single matchup is going to be so influential. We need to start towards the top lane. Chippies versus Swiper is going to be a big deal. And of course, Big Swips has got a lot to prove moving into this against the Aurelia main himself in Chippies.
Yeah, look, Big Swips does against Big Chips. There's definitely going to be a heavy-hitting matchup up there, whatever they choose to play. Chippies perhaps more diverse in his champion pool as one of the redeeming features that the Direwolves top laner will actually have to present himself. But you give Swiper Aurelia, you're asking to have a bad time.
We certainly have. But look, the bans have come through thick and fast. Talia, Karma, and LeBlanc taken away by Direwolves as Malzahar, Vladimir, and Siva were the priorities here by the Chiefs. So Jin is still up. Still a whole lot of junglers remaining as well.
Jin's up. Definitely worth considering. Cassiopeia is also standing out. Something like a Thor? I can't even speak.
Thor-Tum?
A Thor Thumb, yeah.
Yeah.
Thor Thumb.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Yeah, so Cassiopeia is going to be there as a present concern. Perhaps the Direwolves pick it up away from Swiffer. If we're looking at the champion pool of each mid laner and what has been taken off the board, LeBlanc is a target ban, something that Swiffer's very rarely actually been able to play as of late. Not only that, the Malzahar, Vladimir, Gontalia are another targeted pick, and Karma is something that Swiffer's also played. So realistically, they've just tried to ban out the mid lane.
Well, they can try, but of course, Cassiopeia is still there, like you said. Victor, of course, he's just got so many champions in his wheelhouse, but Direwolves do take away the Gragas. This has been something that Spooks has been bouncing back to. Of course, Carbon, a massive proponent of that champion, was banned the entire series last night. Now Chiefs have their chance to pick up some champions. We'll see whether Ejim is forced to play Braum.
A lot of emphasis actually placed by Direwolves on denying things from the Chiefs. One of the strongest combos we've seen from the Chiefs is the Gragas Talia, where you place down the E, have the minefield essentially there, and Gragas casts them through it, so that they take a lot of damage. You don't have to waste the W in situations like that. There's a fair bit of utility there, but the Chiefs are definitely there with a response.
Oh my goodness, already the bottom lane locked in here for the Chiefs, and it is going to be that Lucian Braum. Such powerful early pressure already. Not wanting to take their feet off the gas at the beginning of this game.
Things have not changed at all for the side of the Chiefs, at least in champion picks this time around. Rays locking in the Lucian. A fantastic Jin player in his own right is opting more towards the damage dealing route. The aggressive front they're now going to be able to put down in the 2v2. Could cause a stir for the Direwolves 2v2 themselves.
Yeah, exactly right. And remember, we are on 6.15, so it will be a 2v2. No lane swap is going to come in this time, and that is an incredibly powerful way to start. Of course, the Direwolves can look for something like the Bard. Regret has played that one a whole lot into such great effect as Fantix takes away the Snake as soon as he possibly can, and Tahm Kench actually picked up either for Chippies or for Regret.
Regret has got a game on Tahm Kench. Works well when they had the Jin. So that you can protect him and he can stand and deliver. Of course, works well with most champions. Tahm Kench is a support decision, though it'd be quite risky. Perhaps the knowledge of it being a Braum has brought this about.
Yeah, and of course, does mean that the AD carry is the one that has to have a lot of onus on them to go aggressive as well. And we know Regret as being an aggressive support, but is going to be more facilitative now on the Tahm Kench. We'll see whether Radier has really been going off recently now that he's put on the green of the Direwolves.
Whilst the Elise was being hovered even momentarily there, something worth noting is that Sybil's not playing that. Might be saving it as the trump card for later games, but is a standout Elise performer. Of course, his Gragas has been sound. It feels like denials from the Chiefs being on blue side is a curious decision that's put them here.
Yeah, it is. Now going to lock in some pretty standard picks now with the Rek'Sai going to Spooks and Victor for Swiffer has been locked in.
Man, he looks good in green.
He does. Life does look good for Radier at the moment. Fantix, of course, very comfortable now with that Cassiopeia in his hands, but bottom lane now to make the decisions for Radier himself, and of course Chippies towards the top side of the map, depending on whether or not he's going to take the Tahm Kench.
Chippies is the Jax player. He's also the Aurelia main of old.
Yep.
Would not surprise me to see him go towards either of those. Of course, Swiper gets the counter. He does have the last pick option available to him. Chippies might even just go the safe route, lock in something like a Nah.
Yeah. Hasn't made up his mind just yet. I do love the Jinx hover, however. It's not going to happen. Jin's going to be picked up, and it is going to be that Direwolves Tahm Kench Jin combo.
Yeah, so the same thing we saw from them when it was Raze playing with them. It's still going to be a little bit disorienting to speak between the two.
I'm going to be very confused, Rusty. I'm going to put it out there right now.
Absolutely. And of course, the top lane GP going to be seen.
Yeah.
Denies usually something like the Shen. There's a chance that Swiper actually locks in Renekton whilst he's hovering it, so don't be fooled if he does. It's into a Gangplank too. There's been worse matchups.
It certainly has. I do love the fact that Chippies does bring sort of double global pressure, what with the Cannon Barrage as well as his teleport. But he's going to mean that the lineup is relatively squishy, relying on Sybil and Regret to be that front line for them. The late game damage potential is ridiculous from this team.
Of course, can still go something like Aurelia, just switch over to his most picked as of late champion. Only one game in between. He wasn't allowed to have it. He played Shen.
Well, that's going to make some sense. When he played Shen, by the way, he went 0-9, something like that. Get him back on the Aurelia, Chiefs. I mean, I think that is what needs to happen, as Swipe is going to lock that one in and go up against the Gangplank of Chippies towards the top side of the map. So 2 big carries, but Swiper will probably have a bit of an edge early on.
2 big carries, 0 surprises.
Yeah.
Of course, the top lane, very important for both of these teams. The junglers are just trying to get the rest of their lanes going, get them ahead, set them up for success as best they can. Mid lane, the exact same thing. Considerable amounts of damage can come out of there. Then the bottom lane for Direwolves has got the lockdown. It's got the longer range safety net of the Tahm Kench as well to keep that Jhin alive. But not only that, the opposite side of the Chiefs has thrown that to the wind. They've said, we're picking the Lucian so that Radier can't. We're going to be forward. We're going to be in your face and aggressive. And that will actually work in standard lanes if you want to consider it's a Braum Lucian against the Jhin Tahm Kench.
Yeah, and we'll see how it is going to go, because on the side of the Chiefs, honestly, it just feels like an incredibly stock standard composition. Not throwing out anything crazy. This is game number 1 of a best of 5 series. They want to make sure if they play default Chiefs League of Legends, if they're going to win that game, that is such a confidence boost moving into the rest of the series. Whereas Direwolves, they're looking very comfortable as well, and I'm terrified of that jungle mid combination in Gragas and the Cassiopeia.
Yeah, if they lock you down, of course, there's no cleanse, so you can't cleanse flash out if you're Swiffer as well. Has gone for the ghost on that Victor. If you catch him at all, there's a chance that he's going to die. So a lot of threat in that middle lane. But if you look at middle lane and Sybil wants to gank there, there's always going to be a Spooks nearby.
Yeah, that is a good point. And of course, he is on the Rek'Sai as well, so going to be very, very comfortable and going to be able to offer some early gank pressure at the same time. As you can see, the Direwolves, they are ready to get onto the Rift. The Chiefs, exactly the same way. Spawn said it himself. Both of these coaches, extraordinarily confident moving into this series. And we'll see who's going to be able to draw first blood in this first match as we hop onto the Rift.
There's just something in the air, Atlas, between both of these teams right now. They've swapped AD carries, and it feels like you could never pick the winner of this series until it actually happens.
Yeah, and every second person I talk to has a different opinion. Very excited to see who's going to be correct and who isn't. Of course, remember, use those hashtags CHF win or Direwolf or DW win. Let us know exactly what you expect to happen in this series, because honestly, I couldn't tell you. And we are going to have a pause just briefly as we hop into this game. Of course, it is going to be standard lanes, 6.15, no changes, and there's going to be some emphasis on grabbing that first turret. And do you feel like we're going to see some early moves up top to try and like blast that one down at 5 minutes?
That's the first thing we have to highlight, right? Coming into any competitive League of Legends game past 6.15, the turret giving first blood is actually a massive priority if you think about the swing of gold that you get for the individual member of the team picking it up. We saw it yesterday. Tally got that like 650 gold and a Rift Herald buff, one after the other. If they make a play, it's usually going to be at around the 6-minute mark. So it comes down to who can win the 2v2, can then turn that 2v2 strength into the rest of the map and start to actually translate it positively.
Yeah, and we'll see exactly whether it is going to work out. As you can see, Swiper on your screen right now, trying to get himself amped up to get into this. And We were talking about sort of yesterday, the fact that Tally did manage to get himself a huge lead towards the top side of the map. That was against a Riven that time around. This time the Aurelia is facing off against a Gangplank, and I'm feeling like late game scaling probably still going to be there. Is it going to be as punishing for Swiper to get an early lead?
It's going to be pretty simple to execute on actually getting a lead you would expect for the Aurelia. Of course, Gangplank doesn't have the most sturdy nature in his kit. He can be pushed out quite successfully, but we'll see how that actually pans out because realistically the keg play is just not efficient in the early games. The one big thing though that we actually have to highlight is how they play the lane swaps and when they decide to push it in, because let's say 6 minutes is not going to be enough to have a Sheen purchase for any top laner. The Gangplank won't be as powerful. There is the opportunity for counterplay. Let's say the Direwolves are trying to put the swap into effect. They send 5 people top lane. You can match it.
Well, we'll see whether they are going to be able to do that as we hop back onto the Rift. No time has passed so far. Spook's just hanging out towards the top side of his jungle. Same thing to be happening here for Sybil. Both of these junglers going to end up on that bottom side. And I feel like our eyes are going to be drawn to the bottom side of the map almost this whole match. The Raze Radier trade. We heard Ejim on the desk only a few weeks ago saying if he could team up with any AD carry, it would be Raze.
Because it legitimately fits his play style. That's the beauty about this. Ejim's a forward player. Always aggressively thinking, can get quite antsy and a little bit hyphy. And he's probably the only member of the Chiefs that has the propensity to do that. Usually drags along Spooks for the ride and then just go on aggressive 2v anybody engages. And just see who team. And just see who they find on those journeys. But Raze fits that bill. And honestly, I think that between Ejim and Raze, it will go together quite nicely, but if you contrast that with Raider and Regret, it feels to me as though Raider's natural style is actually playing back a bit. He wants to be a little bit more defensive, and Jin fits that as well. Raze isn't that, and that's why Regret might actually have problems with playstyle differences.
Yeah, and Regret has always been an aggressive player himself. Of course, has been around the scene for a very long time. Radiant knows him very well.
I think Regret's actually wonderfully flexible in comparison to Ejim, who can play forward and back, but his Janna's nowhere near as good as his Alistar.
Yeah. Of course, Regret has played with a heck of a lot of different AD carries as well, so able to stay rather flexible in that regard at the same time. You can see this 2v2 has already started. Radiant holding onto that crit. I'm going to see who he can shoot with it. Finds Raze. Fair bit of damage as the grenade dances across this minion line.
Yeah, I mean, guaranteed crits at level 1 are always going to give you a natural advantage, but once the spells are there, once the door is also there for Ejim, things turn around. And at the moment, it may look like a 7 CS advantage. It's more like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Things will still pan out. So whilst we're looking at that bottom lane and we're saying potentially it's a big spot where a lot of action can occur, it's more so to me that jungle role and what Sybil and Spooks can actually get done. Spooks much more counter gank heavy, wants to react to where Sybil's going. But Sybil always wants to get something done. He's quite unpredictable in his movements.
Certainly is, whereas at the moment, Sybil's the one deviating from the path. Spooks goes straight to his wolf camp, but Sybil looking for that Rift Scuttler. Finds it there, bops it with his keg. You can see the bottom lane for the Direwolves actually pushing in quite aggressively. Spooks will make his way towards this mid lane bottom side brush, but yeah, spotted out by a ward, puts his own down, sees the fact that that Rift Scuttler has been taken. Regret eats himself some Radiant.
Hits a minion whilst he eats him. They had vision as well of Spooks, but as he walks to the middle of the river and sees the scuttle that Sybil just took, that's why he decides not to commit to bottom, and that's why Regret's able to stay forward in his movements. It also means that Fantix needs to show some respect, and again, the back and forth nature of where these junglers are visible. Sybil having the upper hand, but only slightly at this stage.
Yeah, and you can see Swiffer was getting a little bit aggressed on earlier on in this matchup, but has since evened out the farm behind as far as mana is concerned, but Fantix will have a lot of lane pressure on this Cassiopeia.
One of the strengths of Spook's champion right now with the Rek'Sai is the unique gank pathing.
Yeah, well, he's going to find his way in here. Preyseeker comes down. There's the flash knockout as Chippies is going to flash away. The flash from Swiper grabs himself first blood and survives as the tower gives up on him.
And that's it. Spooks and Swiper, they get the first kill. Not only a CS advantage gained by the Aurelia right now, they will have to force the teleport out of Chippies if he wants to get the minions that are now about to crash down. As he finally uses it once he realizes that he's now safe. Good moves from the Chiefs.
Well, Sybil actually looking to try and answer here. Does have Flash Body Slam available, but Swiffer makes his way safely out. Doesn't have to use a Summoner spell.
Timely minion wave as well.
Yeah.
Actually helps him out there. So if there was a Flash Body Slam, Swiffer probably could have reacted. Things now even out. There's not honestly a big lead anywhere besides that top lane at the moment. But Swiper getting a lead and Aurelia getting a lead can carry games.
Certainly can. Keeping Chippies down, also a big deal. We've spoken about this guy as being a big force for the Direwolves, especially as we get into this sort of top lane focus meta we have been in for quite some time. Swiffer doesn't get poisoned. Asma keeps him down for the moment. Spook's now starting off this blue buff. We'll see whether he hands it over to Swiffer, as it looks like he might come around. It does have a minion wave to pick up beforehand.
Give it the laser walk away or not. Nope, definitely will get the blue buff though. A 5-minute blue buff is very early once again, but because it's either now or it's a 11-minute blue buff, and that's quite late.
Yeah.
What blue buff actually means for mid laners is an immediate winning lane.
Yeah.
You play like you can win the lane, you get 15% bonus ability power, you have cooldown reduction and mana regeneration. It's a mid laner's dream. It also means you're vulnerable to ganks because you start playing like you're a god.
Well, speaking of which, Ejim is actually going to start things up here. Doesn't find the Winter's Bite as Radier's going to get eaten by Regret, but they just turn onto the Tahm Kench. Grey Health already all the way down as Cannon Barrage onto 3 members of the Chiefs, and Radier looking to turn this one around. Doesn't have his grenade as Spooks tunnels his way out, but really good defensive play by the Direwolves.
Yeah, fantastic ulti by Chippies.
Oh, Chippies.
So this is what you get when you're ulting other lanes. Swiper's able to snowball even harder. 2-0 Aurelia, and that's a disastrous start for Direwolves.
We saw what Aurelias can do to these games. Tally showed us yesterday in that series, as now we're just going to see exactly how Swiper did it. And it was by pressing his button.
Yeah, he actually just stuck to him.
Yeah.
Has the Phage, also has the Rage passive available, the move speed to keep on people. Use the Q forward, it will still speed you up. And Chippy's being level 6, not level 7, means he wasn't going to get the keg in time. And again, one of the downfalls that a Gangplank has this early is setting up the kegs just takes so long. Aurelia gets onto you immediately.
And he even managed to get one of those kegs off, but the movement speed not nearly enough against Swiper with both the Equilibrium Strike, the Blade Surge, as well as that Rage passive that you stated before. Really dangerous. Now Sheen picked up by Swiper as well. Item advantage, level advantage, everything going well for the Chiefs top lane.
And how do Direwolves react to this is the ultimate question that we need to ask. We are at 7 minutes into this game. They have disappeared on the map. You can see them on your screen. But look at the Chiefs.
Yes, Swiffer actually in trouble as well as he dodges out of the way of some of the poison. Really good Chaos Storm doing a lot of work as there's the flash. Fantix picks up the kill, but Ejim's here. Spooks is going to grab Fantix and mid laners are traded.
Ejim shows his head though, so Direwolves are able to threaten the opposite side of the map, but this is movements from Chiefs on the ball, very much aware of where the Direwolves are going and when. And it wasn't a bluff, they actually just pulled it off.
They did. So Radier going to dance some grenades over the Chiefs as Swiper's back is not going to get stopped, and he's going to move towards the bottom side by the looks.
Look at Direwolves. Immediate response. Their goal right now is to get a gold lead for Chippies by breaking a turret. If they can do that, they can bring back potentially at least close to the difference between Chippies and Swiper. And they're actively attempting now to avoid the 1v1 and getting the lane sort. The fortification bonus no longer exists past 5 minutes. Used to be 7.
Yep. Now Ejim going to wander himself over a ward. So it is going to be a 2v1. Raze picks up this barrel. Of course, Lightslinger pretty good at killing Gangplank barrels. Now Raze and Ejim to get to work on this turret. Chippies takes a fair bit of damage. Raze just ignoring the turret for the moment.
Yeah, they still put some damage down on Chippies. He is level 7, so the keg play that we mentioned does get a bit easier.
Yep.
Of course, it's not that 13 spike. One of the more unique champions, very level dependent as well, Gangplank. Loves to have solo lanes for extended periods of time, and that's why top lane Gangplank is also just a treasure, opposed to mid where people start grouping on you and having ARAMs. It happens.
Yeah, it certainly does.
More than a Gangplank would like.
Spook's not going to be able to clear out that pink ward. Does get himself out to safety. Fantix unable to stop him with the miasma. And Swiper. Aurelia able to farm underneath turret incredibly effectively, so he's absolutely fine, but will decide to go back, and it looks like that 1v1 will be gained once again by the Chiefs.
Yeah, they still want standard lanes, as these two, speaking of 1v1, are really trying to give it to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Fantix looks like he's going to go an Abyssal Scepter route, so he has more resistances against his lane opponent. Wants to keep that 1v1 for as long as he can, because an Abyssal Scepter doesn't do much against everybody else on that team.
No. Does help Sybil's damage just a little bit. I do like that. It's decides to come and gank. Has at the moment. Will get spotted out. Ward gets cleared by the Hillbilly Gragas.
And that's the beauty of the Dial's composition, right? If Sybil ganks mid, Fantix gets an ult off, and Chippies actually has his ulti as well with the Thunderlord's proc that comes out.
Yeah.
You kill that person pretty much immediately. Now the Chief's starting to make moves towards the turret.
Yeah, Spook's actually to help out Raze here as he tries to take down this turret. Not a lot of minions.
One great thing about this is actually the Gangplank ultimate in lane swaps where you're trying to take turrets. If it becomes a race, you get a free wave. You're seeing that used right now.
Yeah, coming down here towards the bottom side of the map as the Chiefs actually trying to do their best to brute force this down. Swiffer is going to die in the mid lane in the meantime as Sybil is able to help lock that one down. Didn't even need a flash as Fantix and himself will be able to get some work done on this mid turret. But first turret blood does go to the Chiefs.
That's right, they get bonus gold. Of course, it was shared, so between all of the Chiefs, they lock it down.
Yeah.
No substantial amounts gained by any individual member, but the Chiefs deny it at the very least. And they still have themselves a 2-0 Aurelia as Raze mid.
Yeah, a lot of members of the Direwolves are going to have to get out as the Chiefs hold on to their turret. Spook's left on his own, but will be able to take down this first Infernal Drake. It's quite a big deal for the Chiefs early.
Yeah, it definitely is. So they've got that scaling buff. They also deny it from a Jhin Cassiopeia comp.
Yeah.
Which is like the best Drake that they could ever pick up for themselves. We do get to see how Swiffer died. And it actually doesn't matter that the ultimate didn't stun there from Fantix because the damage is done once the keg hits. Sybil does work.
Yeah, Sybil actually just hit every ability perfectly there. Beautiful to watch out of this Gragas. We've heard a lot of talk about the Sybil versus Spooks matchup. This was going to be a big pick in the Gragas, and Sybil's making it look pretty good for this early game.
It definitely is. Sybil so far so good anyway with the decent scoreline. He's not the problem point of the Direwolves at present. And honestly, the Direwolves don't have a problem point. They have a problem to deal with.
Yeah.
And it's Swiper.
Certainly is. As Radier looking to set up the Radier bait trap, which has worked in the past. Direwolves, of course, a team that has fallen for that one.
They think they're the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a Radier thing, isn't it?
It is. Use the Radier bait. Regret walks forward, clears out that ward. Chippy's still hanging out.
I mean, realistically, they just can't 1v1 still. The Gangplank can't even look at Swiper Funnier. He dies. So needs to stay grouped. They are making a play once again for this turret.
Yeah, should be able to take it down this time as 4 members top will do it. So out of turret, he's going to get taken. And turret's now traded here for the Direwolves. And they even up that gold. 500 now, the difference. No big deal at all as Ardent Blaze gets raised one of the CS in that wave. It's always a good feeling. That ability doesn't do a lot of damage.
No, it doesn't. Of course, good Lucian players will always hit that right.
Yeah.
And
And
reduce the range on it a little bit recently.
really good Lucian players will just build AP, right? So it will do a lot of damage. As the ultimate comes down, Chippy's in trouble. Ray's actually flashing on top of him. Swiffer able to pick up that kill. Radier's going to get exhausted, flashes himself out, but the Winter's Bite is going to land. Not quite enough to stop him from getting under that turret, so Direwolves do save their AD carry.
Yeah, no flash available for Raze, and good early use of the heal there by Radier to keep himself healthy enough to ensure they don't pursue him under any turrets. It is still another member of the Direwolves going down, though. This time it's Chippies for his 3rd death.
Yeah.
Really is on struggle street. The Chiefs are exploiting that top lane.
Certainly are. 78 to 111 CS as well. Swiper has been able to find the farm that he's looking for. Trinity Force apiece. Both of these top laners, as it's a longsword from Swiper, so not looking to go for that defensive route. I think he wants his Ghostblade.
Swiffer.
Yeah, he's just going to tank some free damage.
The price you pay for minions, I suppose.
Yeah, one of those.
Fantix doing a lot of damage. And again, that's that Abyssal Scepter that we spoke of. So between Sybil and Fantix, they dismantle people. Reduced magic resistance when you're around the Abyssal Scepter. And both dealing heavy magic damage by having the Runic Echoes build.
Yeah, scary stuff. Fantix just doing Fantix things here as well as CS per minute looking very good as he's on 139 at 14 minutes. 123 for Swiffer. Definitely wouldn't be a bad number, but when you pair it up against Fantix in this game, it's not looking the best.
Yeah, the man's on the clock. Always seems to be. Fantix, a stellar creep farmer.
Chippy's going to ruin a few of these CS for himself as Swiper just going to go for the dive. Look at the damage as the Trinity Force Aurelia mops him up and flashes out.
The last time I saw something like this was Paradise dismantling people.
Yep.
This is absurdly strong right now when Swiper is actually putting on a clinic. Start charging Trippies for lessons.
Oh, that's mean. That is mean. I don't think Chippies needs any help playing the old Aurelios. There's the flash knock-up. Fantix not going to get stunned by the gravity field as he's trying to turn this one around. Doesn't find the petrifying gaze as Swiffer a little bit more worried about killing creeps than he is the Cassiopeia. As now Regret gets the exhaust down onto Swiper. Spooks and Swiffer are going to turn up. As he does have to be careful. Chaos Storm comes in. He gets eaten up to Fantix as Regret's going to try and spit him out to safety, but Swiper easily able to grab that with a Blade Surge. Sybil gets in time, but Raze just culls him. Good knock up on a Radier. The double actually coming in now for Raze as well, and the Chiefs are all over this map.
Yeah, Raze gets a double kill, coincides with the Rift Herald in positioning, and the Chiefs are just taking apart piece by piece what the Direwolves have to offer. Sybil's trying his absolute hardest, still gets a kill in response. But just unfortunate decision-making out of the Direwolves. Regret spits Fantix out next to Swiper.
Yeah. Just wasn't quite enough. The Direwolves bite off more than they can chew, and look, they do love going for these skirmish plays. Just doesn't work when the Chiefs are in such good positions.
And this was Direwolves actually putting it into effect. Once again, the flash heat from Regret. Can't put him into the Chaos Storm, so has to throw him towards Swiper and just immediately dies. Raider's impact on this was non-existent because he was an afterthought, as was Raze and Egem. The result was already going the Chiefs' way. Once again, Swiper shows up.
Yeah, most certainly does. And Radier, of course, had the curtain call that entire time. Probably could have put that down at the beginning of that engagement. Decides to hold on to it. See whether it is going to equate to something. So we move towards the next dragon. Another Infernal Drake up in 30 seconds.
Still waiting for those item spikes, obviously, from the Jhin himself. Raze actually quite far ahead in that respect. Bit of CS, couple of kills. So when you look at that next Drake, how important it actually is for both teams. Yeah. One is a denial at the very least, one to get two of them. And it could be a point of contention.
Well, at the moment, the Chiefs most definitely in position. The Direwolves moving towards the top side. Looks like they want to give this dragon up, as the Chiefs are still 3,000 gold ahead. Even if they were to lose this turret, they'd still retain that lead. And this dragon is not going to last long.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is it may only be 3,000, but it's 3,000 with two Infernals. So
yeah,
16% AP and AD increases now. All of the champions that build carry items, such as a 402 Aurelia.
Oh my goodness.
Will be infinitely stronger. Oh, by infinitely I mean 16%.
But does feel like infinite at this stage, especially when Swipe is able to dive underneath a turret and kill Chippies with almost impunity. So if it doesn't quite find the death ray, but he's probably happy with this lane pushing into him.
He's actually just the one hanging out in this game. Maybe 1 and 3. I know a lot of emphasis from Direwolves to keep him down.
Yeah.
But doesn't matter too much because the big top lane is going off. Same thing applies for Raze and Egem. They're doing their part. It may only be a little bit of cleanup duty. That's all they need to do because the Chiefs can win the game with one successful lane through snowballing the rest of the map from it. The Direwolves haven't snowballed a lane successfully, but they do have a big scaling Cassiopeia and scaling team composition where they can late game team fight if they take somebody out.
Yeah, I feel like the 5v5 or 5v4 that it will probably end up being from the Direwolves is going to be a very scary prospect. Their control of areas is going to be a big deal. Sybil creating so much disruption and Radier's safety in the very back line. If he doesn't get flanked, could be a very big deal as Raze picks himself up the gold from the turret. Radier now going to try and farm it out against the Jhin. Direwolves over to the side, clearing out Vision. Unable to find that ward as Spooks turns up. Will be a 3v3, actually 4v3.
Yeah, pressured back.
Yeah, Swiffer turning up, spells the retreat.
And the exact same time, the Chiefs knowing that there are that many members of the Direwolves top side, which I will say is not the best place for them to be. The blue buff is actually a big point that they will look towards. And now this happens again.
Oh, Chip is in so much trouble. Cannon Barrage comes in, actually flashes, but Swiper flashes, gets the auto attack and gets out. And I've seen this movie before.
Oh,
and
no.
It's a horror story, Rusty. As Swiper just equilibrium strikes Sybil, and then just dashes to the Krugs and gets out.
Yeah, has 5 points in his E, actually maxing it second opposed to the Q.
I like
so
it.
The damage is a bit less. It could have actually immediately killed Chippies instead of having to flash. But instead, it gets him out alive when Sybil comes in as the afterthought. And the Chiefs, they get a 1v1 kill bottom, which brings a second member. Now they pressure the opposite side of the map.
Yeah, and this tower already so incredibly low. Direwolves do manage to defend it.
Only the next couple of minion waves should be able to take that one down, as Direwolves just have to clean up their whole map. Just feels like the Chiefs have pressure everywhere.
Whoa.
Abyssal Voyage actually coming in for Regret.
Looking for Swiffer. They locked him down.
Yeah, they are going to find him. Curtain Call comes in as Swiffer flashes out of the way. He's looking for the damage as the Chaos Storm does come down. Really good ultimate comes out from Fantix, but he does get exhausted. And look at the damage now as the Chiefs turn it on. In goes Swiper. And it's a double kill for Raze, and they just don't let anything phase them.
Not at all, and that was the Direwolves actually being proactive and trying to make that move. 4-12 now, and a bigger gold lead actually amounting due to that. Direwolves, it may only be 20 minutes in, but that felt desperate.
It certainly did. 2 Infernal Drakes as well. As the longer this game goes, the more happy the Chiefs are going to be. Tower falls down on the top side of the map. They win a fight. They get all of the objectives that they're looking for, and every lane's pushing. Let's have a look at this one again.
Sybil unfortunately misses the spells this time. Swiffer didn't even have to use a single summoner until here, where he does get out, but manages to trade them, still puts down the Chaos Storm. Ejim's the only one that goes down. It could have been Swiffer instead, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, Swiper's here, Razor shows up, and geez, the Chiefs.
Just ridiculous. And that Chaos Storm actually chased the Direwolves all the way through that choke. Did maximum damage from Swiffer, and he managed to get himself to safety. Now has that Rylai's Crystal Scepter. This game is getting scarier and scarier for the Direwolves as Chippies takes a big round of poke from Swiffer, who throws down the Ghost and keeps himself safe. There's the Unbreakable as Sybil's in trouble. Deathray doesn't find the Time Kench, but at least he manages to eat the Gragas and spit him out.
And note that that is the currently weakest member on the Chiefs that just did that to them.
Yeah.
That summarizes how this game number 1 is going at the moment as they just kick off the Baron.
Yeah. Started up, no questions asked. That's a 2-item spike coming out of Raze as well as the Black Cleaver was completed. In comes Swiper. He's got a lot of damage, and look at this purple worm melt in the hands of the Chiefs. This has been a dominating mid-game performance. 22 minutes in. 4 turrets to 1, and now a Baron buff to move out onto the map.
No wards, no vision, and no control of Summoner's Rift for the Direwolves. They're left to respond and just deal with what the Chiefs are throwing at them, and this onslaught has not slowed down. That was an early, aggressive Baron maneuver. They can go back to base with empowered recalls, home guard buffs, and set themselves up for the 3rd Drake of the game.
Yeah, which is also going to be an Infernal Drake. This is going to be a very, very scary experience if the Chiefs manage to pick that one up, if it wasn't already enough.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but we're 22 minutes into this game, and if I was the Direwolves, I'd be looking at how they win next game.
Yeah.
Because that's just how bad it feels for them if they get the 3rd Infernal.
It's a 9,000 gold lead. And I mean, you always talk about 10,000 gold lead, 20 minutes. That's basically unsurpassable. It's happened before. Teams have been able to come back, but at the moment, the Chiefs have control of everywhere. Direwolves, decent defensive vision around the mid lane and their top side, but it's just not enough.
Raiders top lane right now, so they're not going to be able to defend the Drake. They will be giving that one up, and at the moment, the Chiefs aren't even saying we need it. They're just looking to pressure objectives, get more gold, get more turrets.
Look at this inner turret melt as Raze just puts bullet after bullet into it. Spooks is going to turn up. The rest of the Direwolves that are here are able to stave them off for the moment. That Siege Minion did a lot of work.
But who are they going to send to deal with Swiper? That is the age-old question right now. Who do they want to die? It's basically
oh my goodness, yeah.
the answer.
Well, Fantix at least clears out this mid-wave. Raze decides that he wants to kill the inner turret, does so very easily, and Spooks is going to get to work on his own on that 3rd Infernal Drake. And look, that many scaling statistics, it's probably too much, but they're going to pick it up anyway. Number 3. Of the old Fiery Dragons.
24% now. Increased
God.
AP and AD. And all of the champions on the side of the Chiefs are benefiting from this besides Ejim. I don't really think they worry too much about Ejim not benefiting.
And we were talking about the fact that Cassiopeia loves it. Victor loves it as well. And he's going for a Lichbane. That's another AP scale that he now has in his back pocket. This Victor's going to be doing so much damage. As this inner turret is not long for the world. Ray's actually not going to get any auto attacks down as Miasma comes in. Fantix takes a bit of poke. As Regret is going to eat up and spit out the Siege Minion. Saves them off for the moment. Not a lot of Baron remaining. Already 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, but they used it as a way to get more of the map under their control. They pressured the bottom side jungle and forced Direwolves to answer there. Insult to injury, of course, gets a wolf.
That was very cheeky, Spooks.
And there is one strategy remaining for the Direwolves.
Batten down the hatches.
Sybil engage. They have to kill Raze immediately, and Swiper can't be there. They'll lose an inhibitor for it.
Yep.
But they need to do that.
So it's win a 5v4, and then everyone run as fast as you can to try and get the Aurelia as Raze throws down a celebratory culling.
He wants
and
Egypt.
Swiper flashes out of the way.
Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map,
Yeah, Cannon Barrage is going to be used. Chiefs will be able to get this turret, though, and Radiant, not a lot he can do about it. They clear out the minion wave, and now Fantix is going to turn up. Ejim can stand behind Raze, but there's the teleport. Ejim flashes forward, looks for Fantix, but good flash. Gets him to safety. Can they corral them enough here as Swiper is going to get stunned up? Good barrel comes in, but he just uses it to Blade Surge on top of the Direwolves. He falls down in the end, but that is 3 dead already. Shippy's getting mown down by Raze, who throws out the heal. Sybil gets Death Raid and a triple kill for Swiffer. We said he was the one you didn't need to be as scared of, but I'm still scared of him.
it's definitely creepy. The chase in this game number 1 is 25 minutes in. And there's just no answer from the Direwolves. From top to toe, from beginning to end, they controlled Summoner's Rift.
Just a dominating performance. Nexus is going to fall down. The first game in this best-of-5 series semi-final will go to the Chiefs, our third-place team moving into these semis. Both teams were confident. The Chiefs definitely looking calm and collected right now after game number 1.
Yeah, all smiles after game number 1 from the Chiefs. The Direwolves have to hit that drawing board because that was a disastrous game number 1. Of course, it was actually so disastrous that they can just start with a new strategy and play it by ear from the draft phase, because that really did feel like there was no response available from the first blood.
Yeah, just ridiculous. And we have to look at that first blood as well. The fact that the Chiefs got Aurelia, they gave it to Swiper, Swiper got snowballed. What happened in our last semi-final series? I believe it was Tally mowing people down on Aurelia 3 games in a row. That champion is a really big deal. Chippies, of course, plays it extraordinarily well. Like, either take it away or just ban it, I reckon.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of emphasis you can place towards the Aurelia, but it was more so that jungle as well. Spook stepping up, being proactive, getting the ganks off. Quite successful for the Chiefs in this first game through different styles of jungle play.
Yeah, well, we'll see whether it is going to pay off as we move forward into this series. But to break down that first game victory by the Chiefs, we're going to throw it back to the analyst desk. Thank you, Rusty and Atlas. My name is Michael Hingsing, and I'm joined here at the analyst desk to break down game 1 by Jake Spawn-Tiberi and Barenta Raz Muhammad. Let's talk at the start of the game. Let's pick some bans. It was an interesting kind of kickoff, right? Walk me through what was going on. These teams obviously know each other very, very well, and it kind of seemed like there were mind games being played out in that pick and ban section.
Yeah, I definitely think there were, because the Chiefs' first pick, well, their first 2 picks, they just take a strong bottom lane. I mean, that straight away showed that they wanted to crush, and it also kind of mucked up the Gragas pick, right? Because, you know, all of a sudden you have a Braum to contend with. Yeah. And with that, Direwolves, something they like to do, they put a lot of mid lane priority. I mean, they pick up things like Jhin, like Gangplank, that are going to influence a mid lane, and the Chiefs pick up top lane priority and bottom lane priority. What that means is they just pick wave clear in the mid lane, and they can play to their side lanes really well, which kind of, I don't want to say that it like bones, like it doesn't destroy the game completely for Direwolves, but from there it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, and of course in this 6.15, where you're just going to be focusing on the laning phase as well, right? It just became incredibly difficult when you pick the Gangplank blind into the Aurelia pick, and you just get, of course, the first gank. I don't want to say that it was all set from that point forward, but it really felt difficult at that point.
Yeah, and the other thing that I want to point out is that Swiper is a really good Aurelia player. Yeah. I mean, he has been for about 5 years now. And I just feel like that's picking for comp, and that's a selfless thing to do out of Chippies. Chippies is a great player in his own right, but every now and again, especially in big moments, you have to say, you know, I have to pick at least a little bit for my lane. I can't blind pick something that is so easily countable by something that another player on the enemy team plays incredibly proficiently.
So Chiefs have to be feeling very confident after that win. It's decisive, but it's also just game 1, and now these teams have at least played each other. Are they going to start recalibrating what they should be doing, their strategies, etc., for game 2?
Yeah, you got to start thinking about it, because the one big thing you learn is that you have to start thinking about your lanes, right? It really does start at the first step, because if you get the Aurelia, they probably didn't think about the snowball, because if you go for the Jhin pick, you have to start worrying about the top lane, because then you will get snowballed and it will impact the entire map.
Yeah, I think the other thing we saw is, as I was saying yesterday, this 5-man top lane business is, you know, I'm just going to go out and say it. It's a waste of time. They gave up a bottom lane first blood gold.
Yeah.
They gave up dragon. I mean, if that is your whole game plan, that you know we're going to put 5 people in top lane after like 6 minutes of gameplay, like
Especially
you
because
need to give me something more than that
it's-
Direwolves.
I mean, you were talking about it yesterday. That it's becoming predictable because it's such a intrinsic change with this patch, right?
Well, at 7 minutes, the reason it's really hard at level 1 and 2 is that like 3v1 or a 3v2 at level 2 especially, if they only have one ability, that is a wash. The 3 win it like nearly 10 out of 10 times with the way you can juggle aggro with the popular jungles. The difference is when you have ultimates and 4 abilities, I mean, it is like 5v3 underneath turret at that stage of the game is incredibly hard, especially if one of them is a Braum, for crying out loud. I mean, I just think that, as I said, I think that at 7 minutes, this is why the change came into play, because to execute on that flawlessly every single time is incredibly hard to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so I know you're coming into a new patch, but when you know that your point can get it's extremely counterable, you have to start. It can't go back on that cheese.
All right, well, that is game 1. The Chiefs are up now 1-0 in this best of 5 semi-final. We're back with game 2 right after this.
Dives. O Tokers não estava próximo aos dives que estavam fazendo e tá aí o replay na tela, o flash lindo do BRTT.
Legacy, night and day from the last couple of games. Just rampaging into the base now.
He's kiting back and forwards, but the turrets are gone, the inhibitors are gone, the base has been absolutely